Hello, everyone. It's Frank Weber again of Life's Comedic Odyssey. I decided to do another audio repost of an article I did some weeks ago in text form that was on online communication. Originally dropped September 5th, 2024. And I think it's important because if you don't have communication in this world, what do you have? I feel like with all the technology and gadgets that are out there now, our communication has been suffering quite a bit more than it used to, and I think it's a pretty important and pretty entertaining article, so here goes. On online communication. As a technology lover of yesteryear, we can do a lot better in this department. By Frank Weber, from September 5th, 2024. Yes, you read that right. I was at one time much more a fan of all the innovation that came down the line. All of it of naturally intended to make our lives infinitely better. Without becoming too nostalgic, which is a common weakness of mine, during the 80s I loved the home computer, video games, fax machines, and even early cellular phones. You name it, and it was cool to me. My dad hated a lot of this tech, however. I don't know if it's because he was resistant to change, which was a very real possibility, or because of having more life experience than me. He simply sensed that while the technology may make our lives better in some ways, perhaps something very important, seemed to get lost with certain modalities. For better or for worse, I feel like I am now following in my dad's footsteps as a 40-something middle-aged guy when it comes to some of these gadgets and platforms. Today's column focuses on what I will very generally term online communication. People can write something, even something perfectly grammatical, and, from their viewpoint, an excellently communicated message with the best of intentions, and somehow the communication does not reach the recipient in quite the same way. Some of you might think that of this column. But seriously, this can be the case with emails, message boards, phone texting, and most egregiously, it would seem, social media. Now, I'm admittedly a relative newbie to social media. I feel like it has a lot of potential. I mean, it's cool that the world is more connected in this way than ever before. But on many occasions, it is unsatisfying and oftentimes incomplete. Some may say it creates an unreal world of sorts, but often I find this medium and its communication lacking in detail, and especially in nuance and context. So without further ado, let's go into 3 examples, my 3 points for this week. Number 1, well, an older example to be sure, I have been a lurker on Texas Tech-related message boards for over 20 years, but have never posted due to the occasional vitriol sourced from the anonymity of writing behind a screen. People get together and talk about whatever subject through posts that are not quite like direct messaging and with more contributors. A favorite subject is always the football team and how our program has lived an odd existence most years with strange management choices that frequently go all the way to the top, well beyond any coaching or on-the-field events. We often go 7-5 or 8-4 with a minor bowl game, but the expectations for better are consistently there, yet we never make it over the hump. All opinions, including my harsher ones, are valid, by the way. If you don't know what someone else means, then ask for clarification prior to spouting off online. And someone is not necessarily a troll simply because they disagree with you. Hopefully you didn't see our game this past Saturday. That would be reference to the August 31st game against Abilene Christian. It was a win, great, that we had no business ultimately winning. You can also learn things from bad wins. Number 2, my new and recent foray into true social media has been interesting, especially on what is now known as X. The platform seems conversational, and possibly even intellectual, yet both of these adjectives are a reality stretch. My rare post may get a like or 2 if that, but no one ever responds for comment and only bots follow me. As for other people's messages, that is a real trip. I am following some sweet ladies, I think, that are followed by other people that I follow. You still following? These women will often post 1 to 2 sentence messages mostly on traditional male-female relationships and interactions, which is an entire subject I should write about sometime. I mostly agree with them, but sometimes a requirement for context and or nuance creeps into my head because something they wrote seems a bit off. A few days ago, one lady seemed to say that if a guy came up to her and was friendly and chatty, she may or may not smile while not looking directly at him or his eyes, then try to get her wedding ring in his view. This is my paraphrase, and it may be imprecise. She is trying to protect herself in her marriage, which is commendable and completely understandable. But what she described can come across as rude in a society that is often too unfriendly. What if he is just a lonely old guy wanting to make small talk for a short time before returning to his boring home? Or perhaps he is a customer at her place of employment needing help. There are too many barriers with too much unfriendliness, and it needs to stop. I also think there should be more random acts of affection than there are, another heavily nuanced subject for another time. Can't remember if it was the same lady, but one said around that time that all dogs of the pit bull breed should be exterminated. Granted, these dogs have a long, controversial, and complicated history, but to get rid of them all sounds neither human nor humane to me. Number 3. I have been working lately with a person, long distance, on alternative career endeavors or options. We finally had a great phone conversation a couple of weeks back, but I always find our electronic communication severely lacking. At first, it was direct messaging through a different social media platform. Then after the phone call, we went to email. I cannot put in too many written details as the other person will not adequately address my concerns. Then other times I will get too brief an answer for what I need or expect. Such light talk happens in text messages all the time, too. Maybe it's me, maybe it's us, but it doesn't seem to be working. Maybe it has something to do with what electronics have done to our brains in recent years. But I don't want to start a conspiracy, heaven forbid. Hopefully you can see my annoyance now, and perhaps you've experienced at least some of this yourself. I believe some face-to-face communication has suffered due to these electronic problems. If we can't communicate effectively with one another, as artificial as the electronic world seems, what do we really have? How do we solve our problems, and how do we live better lives? Computers and their programs are the same as any material items. We will not be able to take them with us at the end of our time on Earth. Let's really think through our personal communications as if the computer or phone is actually a person if we can't meet with them face to face, and make this human interaction and the information gathered from it really satisfying and meaningful again.